Thank you so much, Shari. It's an honor and a pleasure for me to join you today for your annual summit. I only wish it could be in person. I was so privileged to attend your leadership summit in San Antonio this past February, and I pray that circumstances will allow us to gather together again soon. To my friend, the amazing Pastor John Hagee, thank you for your remarkable leadership, for your voice of moral clarity, and what a voice it is, and for your vision of an American future rooted in values and in spiritual purpose. You're an inspiration to us all. And finally, to all of you, CUFI leaders and activists and supporters, thank you so much for your wonderful work on behalf of a marvelous cause. We're in your debt. Dear friends, a year and a half ago, I was appointed by President Trump and Secretary Pompeo to lead America's fight against the relentless human sickness that is anti-Semitism. A hatred that transcends boundaries of geography, culture, ideology, time period, and most of all, of logic. Take, for example, the current pandemic. We've seen a tsunami of anti-Semitic hatred on the internet and social media that baselessly blames Jews for, well, you name it, having invented the coronavirus, for intentionally spreading it, profiting from it, or using it as a tool of global control. The only thing new or novel about this absurd allegation is the coronavirus itself. Blaming Jews for the world's maladies has been a standard feature of anti-Semitism for centuries. And when COVID-19 is behind us, God willing may that be soon, we will be forced to confront the anti-Semitism that feeds off of the economic downturn resulting from this global shutdown. Throughout history, periods of economic pain have almost always seen Jew hatred increase, and not just in words, but in violent acts. We are already seeing anti-Semitic calls railing against so-called Jewish privilege. The economic suffering of many people is very real. Jewish responsibility for it is a pernicious anti-Semitic fiction. These are only the latest flavors of the world's oldest hatred. We're seeing increased anti-Semitism from far-right ethnic supremacists, radical left anti-Zionists, and militant Islamists. This last ideological camp has a main culprit, the Islamic Republic of Iran, which is the world's chief state sponsor of both terrorism and anti-Semitism. Thank goodness our country no longer enables this rogue regime, as we used to do, but now deters it with punishing sanctions and with a demonstrated ability to use military force when appropriate. Allow me briefly to share with you our critical policy priorities in our global fight against anti-Semitism. We're working with our allies to ensure physical security for their Jewish communities, because physical safety is the most important feature of quality of life. We're encouraging countries to allocate resources toward the investigation, prosecution, and appropriate punishment of hate crimes. We're urging countries to adopt the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, or IRA, definition of anti-Semitism, which has been such an important step in understanding the modern manifestations of this ancient disease. We're also urging countries to appoint national anti-Semitism coordinators who can bring focus and resources to our vital fight. We're focused on anti-Semitism on college campuses because, as you well know, the training grounds of our future leaders have often become breeding grounds for anti-Semites. Even some Jews and evangelical Christians are cowering in the face of anti-Semitic discrimination and harassment targeting Israel and its supporters. That's why I'm proud to say that President Trump last December signed an historic executive order that threatens the funding of universities that promote this kind of discrimination and harassment. We're also addressing the problem of internet and online hate, which is the main vehicle used by the far right, the radical left, and militant Islamism to spread hatred throughout the world. I'm the first special envoy to have a senior team member dedicated exclusively to address the problem of internet and online anti-Semitism. And finally, we have another line of effort that I think you're going to like a lot. Most of these measures I've outlined today are inherently defensive, and it's necessary that we defend against hate's onslaught. But as a military officer, I know well that you can't defeat an enemy only by playing defense. So we are determined to go on the offense against anti-Semitism by driving a philo-Semitic narrative, a narrative that inculcates respect and affection for the Jewish people and the values of Judaism that have been so fundamental to our Judeo-Christian heritage and to the founding of our country. Of course, I don't have to tell you how important it is to educate about the values on which our traditions are built. CUFI has been doing that for years, and doing it superbly well. Friends, let me leave you with some very good news. Despite rising anti-Semitism, the United States of America is still the most philo-Semitic country in history. CUFI is one of the reasons that's the case. And today, the United States is led by the most philo-Semitic administration we have ever had. Under the leadership of President Trump, Vice President Pence, my boss, Secretary Pompeo, and so many others, our country is committed to an unprecedented extent to fighting anti-Semitism, to protecting the Jewish people throughout the world, and to supporting the State of Israel. Our commitment to this has never been so clear or so strong. 2 days ago, on Shabbat, in synagogues throughout the world, the Jewish people read the Torah portion of Korach that recounts several tragedies that befell the Israelites in the desert wilderness as they made their way to the Promised Land. At one point, a plague swept their encampment. The people were sick and afraid, and many had died. Moses told his brother Aaron to take fire and incense and go among the people. Aaron did that, and he stood between the living and the dead, and he made his incense offering to the Almighty. It was there and then that the plague stopped. Aaron's act of faith, devotion to God, and love for his brethren brought health back to his people and saved them. Today, our country needs to be restored to health. We need both physical and spiritual health. We need healing of both body and soul. And like in Parashat Korach, we need acts of faith, of devotion, of brotherly love to lift our people toward our great potential. And in this cause, the great cause of crafting a future worthy of America and worthy of our children, I know that we could have no better partner than CUFI. Through your great work, through your unwavering display of faith, devotion, and brotherly love, you remind our country every day about the values that define us, the mission that drives us, and the future that awaits us. May you go from strength to strength. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America.